Saddam Hussein's bottled up at this point, but clearly we continue to have fairly tough policy where the Iraqis are concerned.
Do we have any evidence linking Saddam Hussein or Iraqis to this operation?
No.
The war on terror is, you can't distinguish between Al-Qaeda and Saddam when you talk about the war on terror. We've learned that Iraq has trained Al-Qaeda members in bomb making and poisons and deadly gases. He's a threat because he is dealing with Al-Qaeda. We know that Iraq and Al-Qaeda have had high-level contacts that go back a decade.
You have said in the past that it was, quote, pretty well confirmed.
No, I never said that.
Okay. I think that is...
No, it's absolutely not.
In the aftermath of the war, that part of the war, I think we made mistakes.
If you had known that no weapons of mass destruction would be found, would you have advocated invasion?
I didn't advocate invasion.
But would you have been for an invasion if we had known that?
The answer is probably yes. Look, the interesting thing to me about the pre-war intelligence is clearly it was wrong.
The president himself came back today, and in the questions and answers that followed a speech in Cleveland, he insisted he never linked Iraq and Saddam Hussein to 9/11.
He said there were three main reasons for going to war in Iraq: weapons of mass destruction, the claim that Iraq was sponsoring terrorists who had attacked us on 9/11, and that Iraq had purchased nuclear materials from Niger. All three of those turned out to be false.
First, just if I might correct a misperception, I don't think we ever said, at least I know I didn't say, that there was a direct connection between September the 11th and Saddam Hussein. We did say that he was the state sponsor of terror. I was very careful never to say that Saddam Hussein ordered the attacks on America.
Then that must have been a different George W. Bush who gave the State of the Union address on January 28, 2003.
Saddam Hussein aids and protects terrorists, including members of Al-Qaeda. Secretly and without fingerprints, he could provide one of his hidden weapons to terrorists or help them develop their own. Before September the 11th, many in the world believed that Saddam Hussein could be contained. The terrorists attacked us and killed 3,000 of our citizens before we started the freedom agenda in the Middle East. They were... What did Iraq have to do with what?
The attack on the World Trade Center.
Nothing. Stretch. Big stretch. I'm sorry.
Mr. President. I know you said there'll be a time for politics, but you've also said you wanted to change the tone of Washington. Howard Dean recently seemed to muse aloud whether you had advanced knowledge of 9/11. Do you agree or disagree with the RNC that this kind of rhetoric borders on political hate speech?
Yeah. Look, there's time for politics. And, you know, it's time for politics. And it's an absurd insinuation.
In that case, sir, can I follow up on something unrelated?
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week you told us that Secretary Rumsfeld will be staying on. Why is the timing right now for this, and how much does it have to do with the election results?
Right. No, yeah, you and Hunt and Kyle came in the Oval Office, and Hunt asked me the question 1 week before the campaign, and basically is, you're going to do something about Rumsfeld and the vice president? And my answer was, you know, they're going to stay on. And the reason why is I didn't want to inject a major decision about this war in the final days of a campaign. And so the only way to answer that question and to get you on to another question was to give you that answer. The truth of the matter is as well, I mean, that's one reason I gave the answer, but the other reason why is I hadn't had a chance to visit with Bob Gates yet, and I hadn't had my final conversation with Don Rumsfeld yet at that point. I had been talking with Don Rumsfeld over a period of time about fresh perspective. He likes to call it fresh eyes. He himself understands that Iraq is not working well enough.
In a time of unprecedented danger,
The American people are safer.
with economic uncertainty all around,
This economy is strong. It is getting stronger.
and on the heels of a massive intelligence failure that led a nation to war.
You know, I think the intelligence I get is darn good intelligence.
For 4 years, George W. Bush has used the power of words to overcome insurmountable facts. When George Bush began his presidency, he and words had an uncomfortable relationship.
They underestimated the compassion and other proliferators. You talk about subliminal.
Then, September 11th, 2001.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
A country united behind its president and his suddenly powerful words.
The best way to protect the homeland is to hunt the killers down, and we're going to smoke them out of their caves. I couldn't imagine somebody like Osama bin Laden understanding the joy of Hanukkah.
America had one objective in the war on terror.
Well, we'll get bin Laden and bring him to justice, dead or alive.
Unfortunately, bin Laden was a really good hider, and the president soon realized
the objective is not bin Laden.
Because
Saddam Hussein is a threat to peace. Saddam Hussein is a menace. You can't distinguish between Al-Qaeda and Saddam when you talk about the war on terror.
Could powerful words of association turn this into this? The president would need more words.
Saddam Hussein recently sought significant quantities of uranium.
Terrifying words.
Mobile biological weapons labs, poison gas, mustard gas, torture chambers, sarin nerve gas, rape rooms, VX nerve gas, 50 tons of mustard gas in a turkey farm. Weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction.
Scared shitless, the country rallied.
Bring them on.
Strong words, but reality wasn't down for the count.
Listen, we're making good progress in Iraq.
The president's words fought valiantly.
We're shutting down networks that trade in the means to produce the technologies of mass murder.
But the facts were about to open up a second front.
The intelligence service believed that there were WMD. It turns out we were all wrong.
The facts were tightening the noose. It would be the president's words' greatest challenge.
The K report identified dozens of weapons of mass destruction related program activities.
Weapons of mass destruction related program activities. The president had courageously modified the war's justification.
We were right to go into Iraq. Sometimes it's hard to tell it when you listen to the filter.
So don't listen to the filter or the facts. Listen to the words.
The world is more peaceful and more free under my leadership. I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist. We're going to get attacked again.
George W. Bush, because he says so.
And you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to wonder exactly what President George W. Bush knew about the attack, and when he knew it. According to the official White House version, it was at this moment in a Florida classroom that Bush learned the second plane had hit the World Trade Center and that the U.S. was under attack. But here's what George Bush himself said almost 3 months later when asked about September 11th.
I was sitting outside the classroom waiting to go in, and I saw an airplane hit the tower of a TV. You know, the TV was obviously on, and I used to fly myself, and I said, well, there's one terrible pilot. And I said it must have been a horrible accident. But I was whisked off there. I didn't have much time to think about it.
Now, wait a minute. George Bush was told about the second plane while he was inside the classroom. So you just heard him describe seeing the first plane crash on television that day. But that's impossible. No one saw the first plane crash on TV on September the 11th because the videotape of it didn't surface until the next day. So how could George Bush have seen what he said he saw?
I've just returned from Baghdad. And Iraq was a terrible mistake. It's clear that wrecked a lot of lives. Sorry. There are some who feel like that, the conditions are such that they can attack us there. My answer is bring them on.